Hi everyone. So yesterday I was asked to be on BBC4 Radio's art show called Front Row last night, but it didn't actually happen. And they asked me to go on and to talk about the Claudia Winkleman Show, the new talk show that Claudia has got. So instead of going on BBC Radio 4 and sharing some thoughts, I thought I'd do a little video on Instagram. Now, disclaimer, I have worked with Claudia. I did a show called Liquid News with her years ago for BBC Three and BBC One. She is an absolute joy to work with, and what an amazing achievement to now be presenting your own talk show on Friday nights on BBC One. You know, it's almost like the pinnacle of your presenting career when your name is in the title of a show. So first of all, kudos to her. You know, a big achievement, I think, and long may it reign when it comes to her having her own show, and she's certainly the hot presenter of the moment. The next thing I'd sort of say is, you know, when it comes to talk shows, and I've done a few in my time, you know, the challenge as a producer, and as that the channel and the commissioners at the channel, and Claudia's challenge is, you know, what is Claudia Winkleman's way of doing a talk show? That's the real challenge with that. It needs to feel like her show. It needs to feel like her space, her own way of doing it. And I think there are little things for me that in the Claudia Winkleman Show perhaps haven't quite sat right yet for me. And the first thing, actually, funny enough, is the set. Glorious set, very posh, very nice, Claudia. Yeah, it looks very nice, but is it really a Claudia Winkleman set? It's quite dark. I'd say it's quite masculine. And one of the things I think we all love so much about Claudia is her slight eccentric, almost quite messy personality, style. So I'd expect more perhaps of a vintage set, you know, with vintage ducks up on the back walls and vintage wallpaper, perhaps a really cool chair that Claudia's got. It all felt a little cold and a little dark, funnily enough, for Claudia. So that's the first thing. And then my next sort of point, I think, with it all is, you know, Claudia is really smart. She's a journalist. She's a smart cookie. She's quick. And I think the show editorially played to Claudia's funny quirks and funny quips, rather than, in a way, I think, playing back to more of her journalistic skills and prowess. You know, when we did a show called Liquid News back in the day, that was a news commission. And yeah, we were funny, and we were quick, and we were naughty, and we were playful. But at the same time, there was a bit of meat and substance to it all. And for me, at the minute, it felt a little thin. I'd love to see Claudia really getting stuck in with some good, meaty questions to those guests. And so that's what I'd love to see the producers doing a little bit more with her on. Another little idea, I think, with it, and I think perhaps actually before I share that idea, you know, when you're coming up with ideas and new ideas in television, you know, that show is a blank piece of paper from the beginning, and you're going to be thinking, right, what new things can we be doing? And I think one of the ideas they had was people in the audience who had some sort of connection with the celebrities on the panel. And that for me felt a little placed, a little staged. I think you can have a bit more fun with that. I think that perhaps they could be a bit more surprising, or it could be, you know, build more as the front row tonight. We've got all these different people and you introduce them at the top of the show. So it feels a bit more of a thing. It felt a little confusing, I think, whether they were part of the show, whether Claudia knew who they were, whether they didn't know who they were. So I think that needs to, I think, have a bit more of its own feel to it. And then, yeah, finally, I would say, why not do it live? I think Claudia is a brilliant live presenter. I think if that show was live, it would play really well into the sort of slight, gorgeous, creative chaos of Claudia Winkleman, and there'd be a bit more of an edge to that show. And again, that would give that show its own energy. And if it was being broadcast live, I think Claudia would really come into her own with that being a live thing. It's a small change, but a massive change.